You say you want a revolution. Well, you know, we want to change the world.
Welcome to an evening of revolutionary solutions. Welcome to an evening of revolutionary solutions that creatively unite us as community. Thank you, Daniel Cook and percussionist Brad Hawks, for that awesome intro. And welcome to our live and live stream audiences. And most especially, we want to thank the Stream of Consciousness team here in Victoria, BC at Sunset Labs. Jason Giel and team. Woo! I'm Frances Littman. I'm a longtime Vancouver Island resident who is passionate about conscious living rooted in respect for people and planet. Before I share with you a brief synopsis of what this evening will entail, I'd like to first acknowledge we are on the unceded territories of the Esquimalt and Songhees First Nations and give thanks for the wisdom and stewardship passed down since time eternal. We have much to learn. Our intention is to embody reconciliation in all that we do as a united and healthy and happy community. Like many of you, I love where I live, and I live where I love. I'm here on behalf of the Creatively United for the Planet nonprofit society that's been bringing people together in the spirit of community and collaboration since 2012. Tonight, we are going to hear from community innovators and change makers of all descriptions, making a difference locally and globally. Everyone's bios can be found at creativelyunited.org, a free social sharing network where you can see and share events, information, video, and resources, and learn more about the types of people and organizations you're going to hear tonight. Trevor Hancock, one of our first presenters, is going to provide us with an overview of the One Planet concept. Come on up, Trevor. You may have read Trevor's columns in the Times Colonist or seen his posts on creativelyunited.org. Dr. Trevor Hancock is a community health specialist, recently retired UVic prof, on the board of Creatively United, and a convener of Conversations for a One Planet region. Welcome, Trevor. So, Trevor, it's my understanding that humans are using the equivalent of 3 planets worth of resources. We are starting to see the impact now and rather, than dwell on all the bad news. How do we create a one planet community and maintain a good quality of life for all?
Well, thank you. Pleasure to be here. So the concept of a one planet region, which I and others are promoting through the conversations, is really very simple. We have, depending on how you measure it, at a global level, more than 1.5 planets worth of consumption going on. Here in Victoria, as you'll hear from Cora Holdsworth, about 3. Nationally, actually more like 5. How many planets have you seen around here recently other than this one? We have got one planet, and we have to figure out how to live with it, on it, and within its means. But at the same time, we don't want to give up a quality of life, which is different from quantity of life. A quality of life that enables us to lead a good life and that enables everyone to have a good quality of life and good health for all. So the trick is, and that is what the idea of a one planet region is, how do we dramatically reduce our ecological footprint while having a good quality of life for everyone who lives here? And that's what the conversations are about. And we call them conversations because we firmly believe that we're not even talking about these ideas yet, never mind beginning to imagine and design it. So that's what we're here to try and further develop tonight.
And you're going to introduce a video.
I am going to introduce Puran Desai. Now you'll be hearing later on from Cora Holdsworth and from Rebecca Newlove about the One Planet Saanich initiative, but Puran Desai and his partner Sue Riddleston founded an organization called Bioregional, and they developed an ecological community, a one planet community in called Bedzed in London. And now Bioregional has recruited Saanich into an international One Planet community planning process. And he's going to talk about that and about the idea of One Planet and about their experience at BedZ.
Let's roll the video.
My name is Purinder Sai, and I'm co-founder of environmental organisation Bioregional, and I'm speaking to you from our BedZ Eco Village in South London. It's where I live and it's where I work, and this is such a fantastic place to live and work. It's run completely on renewable energy, so I don't have to worry about contributing to climate change. I've got access to a car sharing service, so I don't need to own a car. They're car-free areas, so kids here can play freely. We've got a community centre, so it's a very neighbourly place with the average person here knowing 20 of their neighbours by name. And it's a mix of social and private housing, so people from a wide range of different income groups have the opportunity to experience this sort of lifestyle. I mean, wouldn't it be great if there were more places, products and services which helped us live in a way where we can lead happy, healthy lives, but within the environmental limits of our planet. And as I'm making this recording, we're actually experiencing a very hot, dry spell, and a lot of people around the world are now recognising that climate change is a reality, and it's something that we have to learn to live with, but also to help prevent into the future. And it's not just carbon emissions. If we look at resources globally, we are consuming them at a faster rate than the planet can replenish them. So, for example, 70% of fisheries globally are fully exploited or overexploited, and we're still losing forests around the world. And in fact, if we look at a method such as ecological footprinting, which compares our consumption of resources to the ability of the planet to regenerate those resources, we are actually consuming 50% more each year than the planet can sustain into the long term. And indeed, if we all had lifestyles like the average European, we'd need 3 planets to support us. If we all lived like North Americans, we'd need 5 planets. So this is where the concept of one planet living comes in. How can we all, everywhere, people, lead happy, healthy lives within the environmental limits of our one planet? And this concept of one planet living was developed here at BedZ after we completed building this project back in 2002. And we have developed 10 very simple principles to help create what we call One Planet Action Plans, to help companies, schools, community groups, real estate developers, or even cities start thinking about joined up actions to create the world we want. And those principles cover people and planet. So it's the principles go from health and happiness and culture and community and equity and local economy to things like zero carbon and zero waste. And over the last 15 years since we developed the One Planet Living framework, we've been working with partners around the world to put this concept into practice. So we've been working in over 20 countries. We have small projects, so very small homes or very small companies involved, all the way to very large real estate projects of over 2,000, 3,000 homes each. So it's an idea which is really taking off. And what we're doing now is working with a number of cities around the world in a concerted effort to bring together the stakeholders in those cities, together with the citizens, the companies, the schools, which are part of that city, to co-create city-wide or region-wide One Planet action plans, where there's a plan for the whole city and region, but there are also plans for each of those stakeholders to contribute to the bigger vision. So we'd love you to join in on this initiative and to be the change and to bring benefit for people and for the planet. So thank you very much.
Communities, 2 of which were Saanich and Victoria. As a result, Saanich and Victoria now have ecological footprint assessments and consumption-based emission inventories. Cora is now working with Saanich to use those results to inform the One Planet initiative. Cora is here right now to share the highlights from the footprint results and about plans for the One Planet Saanich initiative. Welcome, Cora. Why is it important to measure our ecological footprint?
Well, the ecological footprint goes beyond looking at greenhouse gas emissions to consider what it takes in terms of land and sea area to produce the resources that we consume and to assimilate the waste that we generate. So this waste includes the carbon dioxide emissions that we create. And this will help to identify and help us pinpoint the key areas that we need to focus in on to achieve One Planet living.
And so what did your work with Saanich and Victoria reveal?
Well, I think you can see on the slides here, we have through our work, we created 3 types of inventories. We created a territorial emission inventory, a consumption-based emission inventory, and an ecological footprint. So this territorial emission inventory, the first pie chart up on the screen here, is a standard type of greenhouse gas emission inventory. This is what municipalities will typically create. And the consumption-based emission inventory goes beyond that to look at the greenhouse gas impacts of all of the consumable goods. So usually that's left out, so all the consumable goods that are produced elsewhere don't get included in a greenhouse gas emission inventory typically. So this consumption-based emission inventory includes those. And these are the results for Saanich here, you'll see. When we include those, the impact of the consumable goods and food, we see the emission inventory doubles. Essentially for Saanich, and Victoria was very similar. And then when we look also at the ecological footprint, we see that food plays a much bigger role. It represents 50% of the footprint. And digging more deeply into the food piece, we can see here that 3/4 of the food footprint are associated with animal proteins. And this is because the energy intensity, the land intensity of meat production and the energy intensity of dairy production. And next we have, sorry, I can't quite see the slide, but the next category we have buildings. And for buildings, we can see that a big chunk of the energy or the emission footprint associated with buildings is to do with operating energy. So this is the fossil fuel and electricity. As we make effort to reduce the electricity and fossil fuel consumption in our buildings, the embodied energy of the buildings are going to make an increasing contribution to the footprint. So it's important to also look at the material composition of our buildings and make our buildings last as long as we can. And our next piece of the pie is the consumables footprint. And this is a really interesting one because we see when we look at the full impact of the consumables that only about 4% for Saanich was associated with the disposal of the consumable goods. And 96% were approximately to do with the production of those goods. So all of the emissions and materials that go into producing the goods. So this kind of shifts a lot of focus in the planning. And our next slide is transportation. So this is very typical to what you would see in transportation emissions inventories, typical greenhouse gas emission inventories. We see that operating vehicles, private vehicles, makes a huge contribution to transportation.
So what are you doing with these results, Cora?
Well, as you heard from Poran and from Trevor, we're working with Bioregional, and Poran invited District of Saanich to participate in the One Planet Cities initiative. There'll be 4 cities participating, and we'll be working with stakeholders, so these are businesses, schools, community groups, to develop One Planet action plans using these 10 simple principles, easy to communicate and easy to grasp, bringing people together to create a common vision for a One Planet region. And we have 8, jumping into the next question already.
You have 8, go on.
Yeah, so we have 8 stakeholders on board. So we have 3 secondary schools, and one of our secondary schools is here today. You'll be hearing from him. And we have a college and a large mall and a couple of small businesses and a farm. So we have space for at least 10 more stakeholders. So if you know of another organization that would like to join us, please do let us know. And you can find out more at our website, www.oneplanetsaanich.org.
Thank you, Cora. Wonderful. Thanks so much. Leading the way with corporate responsibility for reducing greenhouse gases from commercial buildings worldwide is Reliable Controls, one of Victoria's largest tech employers. Executive Vice President of Marketing, Tom Zaban, took us on a tour of his company's fascinating View Royal offices.
Did you know that one of this region's largest high-tech employers is right here in View Royal? With offices worldwide, Reliable Controls is a Canadian-owned and operated high-tech company that is leading the way with computerized building controls that reduce greenhouse gases from buildings. 100% of the research, design, and development is happening right here in this facility, one of the greenest in the region. Leadership at its best. What is it about this building, formerly a parking lot, that's so special?
We are the first and only LEED Platinum certified commercial facility in the township of View Royal. There are only 32 LEED Platinum facilities in this province, of which a full 40% depend on the products that we manufacture in the building behind us. The headquarters annex here is an excellent demonstration of passive building design. And it's a great fit for architects who want to build green buildings in the Pacific Northwest. So when you work inside this building, you don't hear noisy equipment or fans. What you see is just the beautiful wood and glulam timbers that are supplied by Forward Stewardship Council certified suppliers. The building is very, very comfortable. It's a really nice place to work, and it has double the air quality of a standard building. And of course, it's a LEED Platinum facility, so that means this building uses 1/8 of the energy that a normal commercial building in Canada would use.
How is it that what you design and manufacture here affects climate change?
The products we make are freely programmable. And what that means is our authorized dealer network can program any sequence of operation that a green building will need in order to achieve its sustainable goals. That can be something as simple as turning the lights off at the end of the day according to a schedule, or something as complex as detecting the wind velocity and direction and closing exterior dampers to prevent draft. We also service and repair every product we've ever made since 1986. This provides a real advantage to building owners because the control investment that they make can extend for many years to come if the products need repair. So return on investment for their building is very, very high. We are also one of the few manufacturers in the world who not only repair all the products we make, but we also design the software and firmware to be backwards compatible with previous generations. So the board behind me here contains 4 to 5 generations of products that are all completely backwards compatible with the newest products that we make today. And this extends the life cycle of the building and the control systems that are in it, which are a very important part of our sustainability objectives.
How do you deal with stormwater here?
Stormwater management's very important. We collect rainwater off of the roofs of the LEED Platinum building and our North Manufacturing building, and we store that rainwater initially in 2 7.5 cubic meter water tanks. One tank for flushing toilets and another one for irrigating landscape. But before we push any water into the municipal stormwater system, we allow that water, after it overflows through the storage tanks, to come through a water feature here in our courtyard. And the intent here is to create a nice calm space for staff to enjoy for their lunch breaks and barbecues. And then the water overflows and goes through a series of bioswales which detain the water and allow it to naturally soak back into the water table, thereby diverting a significant amount of water which otherwise the municipality would have to deal with.
Tell us about some of your staff incentives that helped you reach your Platinum LEED status.
We provide subsidized transportation for staff with bus passes, BC Pro Pass. We also provide incentives for a round trip if staff decide to walk or bike or carpool to work. We definitely encourage bicycling, and we have enough bicycle shelters and storage facilities for 40% of the occupants of this LEED Platinum facility. And in addition to that, we have a hybrid vehicle that we've purchased specifically for staff use and for either personal or business use while they're in the building.
You really walk your talk, Tom. Wow, look at all these awards. That's impressive. Which ones are you the most proud of?
I think these ones are really quite impressive. There's Manufacturer of the Year, Employer of the Year, Technology Employer of the Year, a variety of awards for advertising and contributions to our industry, as well as our EcoStar Award for exemplary use of water in this facility. So in our building here, we use 60% less water than a regular commercial building of this size.
A fifth-generation Nanaimo resident and consultant in the dual disciplines of planning and building design. For more than 25 years, he has had a passion for sustainable green residences and communities and designed more than 500 green homes in the province and is currently working on numerous eco-homes and community developments. Using revolutionary new technology, he has recently completed the first home in the world right here in this region using just biofiber, a revolutionary new product that is stronger than concrete, non-toxic, has zero emissions, is fireproof, and not only meets but exceeds every green standard and supports Canadian hemp farmers. Like, if that isn't wow. Welcome, Jack. How exciting that your passion for green buildings has resulted in you having so many firsts. How did you come to find and use this product?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invite and the opportunity to share the passion. I designed my first passive solar house in 1985, and so I chased down all forms of alternatives to support a reduced footprint on residences. I was working on a project for Arno and Linda Koininen on a project out in Souk, and through my extensive network of green thinkers, I was introduced to Just Biofiber. The very, very unique product impressed me, and I was able to go to the ownership group for Just Biofiber and convince them that the residence in Souk was the ideal flagship for them to showcase the Just Biofiber.
Here's some footage that our Creatively United team took during the building of Arno's harmless home in Souk that Jack used designing with his design with Just Biofiber. Could this product be an answer, Jack, for affordable solutions needed for quality, green, affordable housing that's also resilient to natural disasters?
Absolutely. You mentioned in the introduction about Just Biofiber a number of the characteristics of the product. It is exceptionally strong, but it also has fireproof and very strong sound resistant rating, and for any type of construction where we're working for affordability, we want to consider attached housing, and anything that takes advantage of shared walls with a fireproof and soundproof membrane is an ideal option for affordability.
Wonderful. It sounds like Just Biofiber is an actual real game changer in the industry. Like I don't think anyone's seen anything like it. How does this fit into your green design principles? That you've got several points that you like to offer, and one of them is economies of scale, allowing for more affordability.
Right. green residences involve integrating a wide variety of different principles that can improve the home, make it greener, and in the process reduce the footprint. That list on the screen helps to identify a wide variety of them. The Just Biofiber product is particularly unique because it meets so many of the characteristics that we want. But when it comes right down to it, the most important characteristic in the design of any home is conservation. We need to keep the heat in. So when we use Just Biofiber as a super insulative block that keeps the heat in, we're in a situation that we don't need much in terms of renewable energy options in order to meet the heating requirements of that. So it works very well in synergy. Very exciting component of the Just Biofiber product is that it is a renewable resource in itself. And so we are growing hemp and lime and mixing them together. The hemp is absorbing carbon dioxide through its lifespan, and most unique is that the Just Biofiber block is actually absorbing carbon dioxide as a building during its lifespan as well. So it represents potentially one of the first carbon negative residences that we could hope to build.
Wow, and I know there's many more to come, so thank you so much for taking the time, Jack, and we look forward to seeing more of your projects. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
For the past 10 years, there's one community that's been leading the way with a holistic approach to community economic development and sustainability planning. The Sauk First Nation is small but mighty. Under the visionary leadership of Chief Gordon Planis, the Sauk community community is remarkable. They have achieved international recognition for becoming one of Canada's first solar cities, providing employment, food, and commercial food growing operations for the Sauk First Nations, creating a one planet community that is allowing them to have economic development on their terms. In the past 6 months, some new and exciting plans have emerged, and Larissa Stendy, a consultant and researcher with Clean Tech Community Gateway, who is working with the Sauk Centre for Sustainability, Housing and Innovation, will share with us her involvement in this new phase of community stewardship that takes the wisdom of Indigenous knowledge and expands it using technology and innovative partnerships. Welcome, Larissa.
Thanks.
What kind of innovative technology and partners are you working with or planning to work with, and how does this address the creation of a one planet community?
Well, as we know, housing is in crisis, particularly in First Nations communities around the country. A recent stat that I heard was that there are more than 200,000 houses that need to be replaced right now in communities. So the Sauk Centre for Sustainability builds on this innovation that Chief Planis has had for a long time around sustainability and comprehensive community planning. What this is a affordable, high-performance, culturally and climatically appropriate housing program. And we are approaching this with a two-eyed seeing methodology, kind of like you described there, where we take the wisdom of First Nations traditional knowledge, which embodies all of these different principles of one planet living for thousands of years. And we combine it with the best that modern technology has to offer in terms of renewable energy and green building principles. So it was kind of a treat to get to go after Jack, who's been a pioneer in this space for a long time. We work really closely with UVic Civil Engineering right now, and we're working with a number of different other partners to decide which are the most appropriate for the communities that we work with, both in Sauk and looking at other communities as well.
I know many people have had tours of the Sauk First Nations solar operations and their wasabi growing. It is really impressive. I know there's many benefits to the community. Did you want to cite a few more?
Well, we actually do believe that social innovation has to come before technological innovation, and Clean Tech Community Gateway is unique because we are a nonprofit consultancy. We reject the colonial approach that has genuinely driven a lot of resources out of community historically, and so we really believe in a solutions-based bottom-up approach that's community-centered and driven based on needs assessments and planning. And there are tons of opportunities on reserve, but that inbuilt capacity needs to be developed. And so our approach is about embedding that and working with nations to see what skills can be developed, what financial knowledge, what further management. And again, as I said, you know, we want to make sure that people see themselves in these projects, because that's how you embed real long-lasting sustainability.
And so your funding, is it coming from the government, or where does it come from?
We had an initial exploratory grant from BC Housing, and now we have a little bit longer term planning and relationship building funding with the Vancouver Foundation and the Real Estate Foundation. So we're always looking for more funding to further expand this, particularly as we move into sort of the capital building phase with a number of these projects. But yeah.
Sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for the Sauk First Nation to expand this. Where's that down the road?
Well, it is part of the design of the whole program that we want to work with 2 other communities around the province. The idea is that, you know, we want to make sure that these are models that can be adapted to different climates and different cultures, and so we want to make sure that we are finding ways to embed that within the design from the day one. Also, you know, obviously many of our partners that we're working with are deeply concerned with the affordable housing crisis faced in all our cities across the nation, and so we're always looking to see how we can continue to contribute to solutions to that.
Oh, it's so exciting that you're involved with this project. You're a dynamo, and all our best to Sauk Nation.
Thank you very
so
much.
Take care. Creating a one planet community has many aspects to it, but the ecological footprint work suggests that in addition to buildings, our transportation and food choices have an important impact on our footprint. So let's start with transportation. Eric Doherty from the Better Transit Alliance will set the stage for why we need cleaner, greener, healthier transportation options. Roll video.
The number one thing we need to do to reduce greenhouse gas pollution from transportation is to just stop spending money on the things that make greenhouse gas pollution worse. Things like expanding urban highways, and shift that money to things like public transit, cycling, and walking that reduce greenhouse gas pollution. And to make that really work, we also need to shift road space away from the private automobile and make dedicated bike lanes, dedicated bus lanes. Right here where we're standing on Douglas Street at rush hour, 40% of the people traveling on the road are on buses already. Once we have the bus lanes that are planned on this, that will go up, and those people will no longer be stuck in traffic. That's what we need to see.
Manager of Sustainability in the District of Saanich. She's not Eric, as you can see. She has 12 years of experience in sustainability in both the UK and Canada. This includes projects in zero carbon housing regeneration, food system assessments, city sustainability strategies, and regional transit plans. Welcome.
Thanks, Francis.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. That is one impressive resume you've got. So I'd love to know, and I think everyone else would, how is the District of Saanich putting your skills to work with climate action and a one planet community in mind?
Well, that's really nice of you to say, but I'm really fortunate to work with a fantastic team and have a huge history of great climate action at Saanich and in the community on which to build. From a corporate perspective, everything from our EV charging stations to our bike lanes to home energy retrofit incentives. So these were actions that were put out from our first climate plan, which was from 2010 and had a timeline to 2020. But you know, since that time, we've seen climate change science progress. We have a better understanding that A, we're not really meeting those targets, and also that the climate risks are there and increasing. So from our local perspective, we're seeing hotter summers, we're seeing drier summers, more intense winter storms, flooding, and we will begin to see sea level rise as well. So Council, being cognizant of that, adopted new targets in fall of last year to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 80% from our 2007 baseline by 2050. And alongside that, a target to become a 100% renewable energy community by 2050. And that's in line with the Paris Accord. And so currently our team is working on an updated climate plan to achieve those targets and working with the community on that.
Fantastic. So what's your current climate impact plan?
Okay, well, Cora gave you a little bit of an overview of some of Saanich and Victoria's emissions. Most cities measure what's called territorial emissions, and she mentioned that those are really the energy that's used within our city boundaries. So energy from transportation, the fuel that we use in our cars, the fuel that we use to heat and power our homes, and the way we treat our waste. But that accounts for not the whole picture. So when you look at our consumption-based emissions inventory that Cora mentioned, that we luckily have done from our 2015 eco-footprint work, we're actually way beyond that. We also include the products and goods that we consume in Saanich that may actually be produced and imported from elsewhere, like Europe or America, such as food and our clothing. So if you look at that, we're at about 880,000 tons of carbon a year as a community. And that's about 7.7 tons per person per year.
Wow. So what does that mean for the average resident then? Really?
What does that mean?
I mean, like, we're going to have to change some things.
So to put that in perspective, if you, for instance, drive the average gas car for most of your trips, that's about 4.7 tons of carbon a year per person. We've got a lot of homes that are heated with oil in Saanich and in Victoria in the region. That's quite high emissions, so that's about 7 tons of carbon a year. So you're already up at about 12 tons per person a year. And now if we wanted to achieve One Planet Living and our greenhouse gas emission targets, we need to reduce that to 2 tons of carbon per person per year. Yes, I know it sounds really overwhelming. But actually, I think a lot of people are already living a one planet lifestyle and they don't necessarily realize. We're really fortunate in BC that our electricity supply, BC Hydro, is about 98% renewable. So if you walk, and you've heard from Eric, if you take transit, if you bike to work, or perhaps you bought a second-hand EV and you're driving an electric vehicle, your transportation emissions are already almost 100% renewable. And then if you change that oil-heated home over to, for instance, an air source heat pump, and there are provincial rebates at the moment for that, then again, you're right down to almost 100% renewable. So that leaves you about 2 tons for your waste and your consumables. You're living a pretty good one planet lifestyle already.
Wow, so how can more people get involved and what can we do?
So we can't do this as Saanich alone, as a municipality. We've got to build this plan with a community. We're hoping that the community and businesses, even if you don't live in Saanich, but you come visit our recreation centres or our parks, that you will get engaged. And if you visit saanich.ca/climate plan, we've got a survey at the moment. Please take the survey. We've got a great backgrounder with more information, and we've got more information about our One Planet Saanich initiative that Cora spoke about that we'd really love to get involved with businesses as well. So please get involved and help us build this climate plan over the next year.
Oh, great job. And I know that Troy McKay has done some terrific things like as your transportation planner. And we can see those on Creatively United, but we are going to actually interview a couple, Silke Sommerfeld and Rolf Otter, who live in Saanich, and they are doing some amazing things. So if you want to know more about what Saanich is doing in transportation, visit creativelyunited.org. We did an interview with Troy, and you can see it there, and it was really great because Saanich is doing so many incredible things.
Thanks, Frances.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you. This Saanich couple has been on a mission to live and share the benefits of solar, electric vehicles, and a low-carbon lifestyle. In 2016, they drove across Canada in their electric vehicle, complete with a solar-powered trailer and a dog. So you wanted to show what was possible when innovation was put into action. We captured that. The Creatively United team has a video to show you this wonderful interview from your house in Saanich. Here we go.
Feld and Rolf Otter were the first people to travel across Canada with both a sun-powered electric car and solar-powered camping trailer. Why did you decide to do this?
Well, we wanted to show others how easy this could be to switch to renewable energy and to electric cars.
We wanted to help out in the transition, the accelerating of getting into electric power generation.
And also Sun Country Highway already made sure in 2013 that you can actually cross Canada easily with an electric car. You have no idea how good it feels to be driving an electric car. It feels really great.
We have solar on our roof, so when we're driving here, which is most of our driving, we get it solar powered, and it's nice to be driving on sunshine. And then electric cars are just so much more fun than gasoline cars because everything is instantaneous and quiet.
You don't even have to worry about charging stations. You drive home, you plug in, and next morning your car is charged and you can drive away again. It's that easy, really.
So 99% of the time it takes 6 seconds to charge my car.
6 seconds?
Yeah, 3 seconds to plug in. I go to bed, have dinner, breakfast, and 3 seconds to unplug. What can be more convenient than that?
So we would never switch back to a gas car. There is just no reason to go back. And I think if electric cars had been first, gas cars would never have been sold.
Well said. I understand you're currently building an off-the-grid, well, almost off-the-grid, new home that'll be solar-powered and carbon-negative with the hemp lime blocks that we heard about earlier. Tell us more.
Yeah, in our home we will have 3 Tesla Powerwalls to store all the energy that we get from our solar panels, and also to be able to live off-grid for a certain period of time should we have power outages, which we have here sometimes. We will do rainwater collection and rainwater reuse, and yeah, so that's the plan.
That's really impressive. Holy moly. And talk about leading by example, driving across Canada and having this amazing house. And I know that you're also removing invasive species, like non-native species, with the goal to increase biodiversity by reintroducing native plants and creating an orchard and veggie garden so you can have your beautiful pesticide-free food right from your own garden. And so how do you handle your power tools and your garden equipment? Are you using rechargeable batteries so that there's no noise or no air pollution?
Yeah, so for the last year, this property has been running completely off-grid. We're not connected to the grid yet. Wow. I used some 2x4, set up some solar panels with it, bought a battery from a Leaf car that had been crashed, and installed that, and I run my little workshop that I have on the property with my welder, and I charge all my weed trimmers and so on. I also converted a ride-on lawnmower from gasoline to electric, and so I could drive that around the property to use our solar-powered pump to get water out of the ground and water the plants that are in the fire reaches of the property.
Wow, so not only is your place green, but it's quiet. You must love that. I know I would. So can the average person do this? I mean, how expensive and complicated is it to do this? And is it just that we need a change of mindset?
I think we need a real sense of mind change.
And mindset.
So you know, if you have a gasoline car, people like to tinker with their car. If you like to tinker with your car, you can also tinker with solar and so on. It's really not that complicated, even though the experts that you sometimes ask for help seem to make it that it is really complicated when it isn't. I've seen some quotes for installing a simple charger, and the prices are just out to lunch because people cannot compare it. So they just take advantage of this. Mm-hmm. And as always, internet, YouTube is your friend. You can find information there. And another great resource is to come to the Saturday coffee chats of the Victoria EV Club, because everybody who drives an EV also has solar panels, at least 80 or 90% of them. Uh-huh. And so you can always ask, what is the experience? Who was the electrician who installed something? And yeah, I'm helping people all the time with information in that regards.
Where does the EV Club meet, and when is that?
It is on Saturday morning. You go to the victoriaevclub.com website, and it's announced on there, the location. It's usually near the Vic General Hospital. Okay. But that can change.
And there's a lot of them? A lot of EVs in this town? Or?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you, Rolf. And Silke, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I would like to add that we often hear people say, well, solar panels are so ugly. And I must say I don't agree with that. I think they're beautiful because of what they stand for, what they represent.
Yes, yes, we hear yes. We're saying yes.
And I truly think that our house is more beautiful because of the solar panels on the roof.
Oh, thank you, Silke and Rolf. What an example you set. Thanks again. Thanks for Linda Gagey is an avid gardener who's been actively working on regional food system issues since the early 1990s. She has worked extensively with a wide range of individuals and groups and believes in collaboration and a meaningful path to getting results. She shares with us the importance of food in ensuring communities remain healthy and happy. We're going to roll a video.
Food can be such a powerful connector. Food brings people together, brings families together, it brings communities together, it connects us to the land, and it's actually quite a big part of our local food economy, our local economy. So I just think that food is the center of it all. My passion really began in community gardens. I started with Life Cycles, and one of our first projects was helping to get a community garden going, and I really saw the benefits of connecting people to the land by getting their hands in the dirt, as well as people getting to know their community and their neighbors. Also, understanding the relationship with food and our health. And the community garden just does that for people. It brings everyone together and gets us interacting with nature. This is the Capital City Allotment Garden, and it is on Saanich-owned land. It has over 140 plots that they farm. And the thing that you'll notice about this garden is that every one of the gardens is different, just unique, just like the gardeners themselves. You'll see things like lots of fruits and vegetables, but also flowers and fruit trees. There is something totally unique about each garden. And one of the things that you'll also see here is lots of pollinators. This is an incredible, diverse garden in the city, and that's one of the things about community gardens is they provide habitat in the city as well. So every third bite of food we take depends on pollinators, so being able to have flowers and plants that pollinators can thrive on is really important. I love how everybody is coming together around food. There's the development of something called the Good Food Network in the Capital Region right now, and that's currently and growing over 200 food, farm, health organizations and individuals who are all working towards some really concrete goals. Food is central to our health, to the economy, to our social well-being, and the goals that have been established are to increase the amount of food that we're eating locally from 5% to 25% by 2025. We also really care that everybody has food to eat that's healthy. And so decreasing food insecurity in our community is really important. Right now we have over 50,000 people in this community who do not have access to fresh fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. And so we're undertaking actions to try and increase that. The other area is about that everybody knows about their food, where it comes from, who's providing it, what the impacts of our choices are on the environment and on our economy. So food literacy is what that's called, is understanding our food system. And so the Food Network is really working to educate and talk to people about food. Oh, I'm excited about so many things that are going on. I was just out at Sneedquith, which is Todd Inlet, and saw the work that Sea Change has been doing with the Wasanik people to reclaim and remove the invasives so their foods and medicines, they can have access to those again. The farm to school movement, getting gardens and salad bars in schools. Vic High even has a farmer in residence program that started. To the development of more community gardens like this, I don't know if people know, but there's a waiting list for every community garden in the Capital Region right now. And a new garden is just being developed in downtown Victoria. The community is getting behind the farm community as well. We just held the North Saanich Food and Farm Festival last weekend. Over 3,000 people out on the peninsula enjoying food, eating food together, learning about local farms and all the issues that farms face in the region. One of the other things that's really exciting, that's just a new development, but is so vital, is the development of a food redistribution center.
And on in my conversation with lovely Linda Gagey was the role of meat in our ecological footprint. So we welcome back to the stage Dr. Trevor Hancock. Welcome, Trevor. Tell us about some of the ecological and health benefits of a low-meat diet.
Well, as you saw in the presentation from Cora, food in general is a very large part of our total ecological footprint in this region, and same in Vancouver. And a large part of that, in turn, is due to meat and dairy. And in particular within that, and I'm sorry for those of you who are beef lovers here, but beef is the worst of all the meats. So to produce a kilo of meat, for example, of beef takes 28 times as much land and 11 times as much water and about 5 times as much energy and nitrogen as the average of meat products. So it's a very high environmental impact. And so one of the things we have to do is I like the slogan that I've seen recently around eating less meat, and that is make meat a treat, or make meat a side dish. Now, what I avoid doing is saying to people, you've got to go vegetarian. I'm not vegetarian. I wouldn't pretend to be vegetarian. And while that is better than low meat from a carbon footprint point of view, there's real ecological benefits to going to low meat. So if you're not ready to go vegetarian or vegan, just go to low meat. Make meat a side dish. And there are health benefits, which is one of the other nice things about a lot of the things we've been talking about. For all of the things that you've heard that are ecological benefits, there are also health benefits. Cleaner air, less global warming, more active transportation that gets you up and out and moving. And if you eat less meat, it reduces your risk of heart disease and stroke and cancer and other diseases. So one of the nice things when I talk about how do you get a one planet region with a good quality of life and good health for all, it turns out that in many ways, living a more sustainable way of life is also living a healthier way of life. So we get a double whammy for that.
And do farmers markets ever make that easy now with all our local fresh veg? So thank you so much, Trevor.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Again. Thank you. If one thing is clear, it is that our children and grandchildren will be living in the communities we create today, which makes them key stakeholders who need to be involved in the process of creating healthier, more just, and more sustainable One Planet communities. Mark Neufeld is a teacher at Claremont High School, where he runs the Institute for Global Solutions. He is also a community integrator for the One Planet Saanich Initiative. Mark is here to tell us about the work he's doing with young people, tomorrow's adult citizens. Hi, Mark.
How are you?
Good to see you. What's the Institute for Global Solutions, and how and when did it get started?
We got started in 2012 in earnest. A young man called Graham Mitchell, who now has a PhD in sustainability, ended up at my school. And he had been teaching a Sustainability 11 and 12 course, and I had been teaching a Global Studies course. And both of us were inspired by two questions. In my case, why do we need nuclear weapons anyway? With 10 minutes to go in the class, my English class, I thought, how can I possibly answer that question? And he had a student who said, after learning about the sort of state of our world from an environmental standpoint, said, what's the point, Mr. Mitchell? We're screwed. And
Wow.
he felt he couldn't answer that question. So we thought, you know what, there are so many positive things we can be talking about with young people and engaging them in. It's just a matter of doing it. And that's how we got started.
That's fantastic. I mean, if you don't have hope, what do you have, right?
Exactly.
So, and as a high school student, I remember way back when thinking, geez, I hope adults are looking after things. Because as a kid, we didn't learn those things, anything in school about politics or how we could have any power or be empowered. It's a very different time. What do you think's happening now? What do you think needs to happen?
Well, I think our young people understand this better than we do. One of my favorite lines to use that came up in a master's degree that I did was that kids who are teenagers don't really have a, oh, that can't possibly be done switch. That's not a reaction that they have. They think this is what needs to be done. They see it clearly and they say, so let's do this.
I love that.
I'm convinced between grade 9 and 12, some of our young people could probably end up inheriting a world that was absolutely sustainable and just and fair and all of the things that we hope to attain. We're just have these mental blocks as adults because we've heard so many excuses over the years. So I not only think that we can be led by our young people, but in fact that they are currently leading us in ways that we don't understand. And they're an incredible resource for us.
Oh, are they ever? And how are you leading the way as a Saanich integrator? Because you're on the list of one of those like organizations that Rebecca was telling us about.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the list, it's kind of a no-brainer for a teacher to look at that and start with health and happiness and keep going from there. When bringing young people who are 14 when they start our program, we have about 180 kids taking it right now. This is an incredible list because it understands that we can't just focus on climate change. We teach both social studies and science in our class. That in fact, all of these amazing things will end up if we engage these kind of, I guess, activities in being a great way to live.
Oh, isn't
and
that the
there's not a lot to fear. In fact, there's everything to gain, and it's a beautiful life that we can all live, and we actually need our young people to help do that. So as an integrator, I want to bring not only my young people into this program, but I also want to bring our young people into this program to help maybe people who don't see the world and have grown up in the world that they understand in a way to see it differently and see it through their eyes. We teach Linda's kid.
Oh.
And he was there in front of a federal, a provincial, and a couple of municipal leaders and said, you know, the problem with us, the problem with the decision-making model right now is we don't take into account the fact that we're gonna live this. You're making the decisions, but you're making decisions that are gonna impact our lives, and you'll be gone. And
Well, it's
very
good that
few
they're
grade
getting
9
that.
kids can sort of wrap that all together. So it was an incredible moment, but there are many.
Well, and the fact that you can't vote, but you can drive a car at age 16 and you can be taxed on whatever earnings you have is just ridiculous, in my opinion. So I guess kids, are they pretty fired up about maybe the potential to vote?
Yeah, I mean, like kids, they started a hashtag, right? Hashtag let us vote. And they went and took pictures of themselves with tape across their mouths saying, you know, why are you stopping us from speaking when we have a lot to lose in all of this and we could be participating? So you let them out of the box and they do remarkable things. And the wonderful thing to be me or Graham or Joanna or any number of the people that we work with is we get to just watch them and sit back and enable them and go, this is how great it can be.
I am so thrilled, and I bet you everybody in this room feels the same way, that the kids of today are really making the positive future for the rest of us. And I'm so grateful for people like you and your students. So thank you very much, Mark. Thank you. Forests provide living, giving habitat, oxygen, and food for countless number of species, including us humans. Imagine that. As well, they sequester carbon and help combat climate change and are a source of beauty, culture, health, and pleasure for many. The Sierra Club of BC inspires generations to defend nature and confront climate change so families, communities, and the natural world can prosper together. And they do so in 3 ways. 1, nature, defending BC's wild places and species. 2, energy, supporting the shift to a low-carbon economy. 3, but through people, inspiring British Columbians to value nature. Carly Mann has been coordinating volunteers doing community outreach, team building, and organizing events for the Sierra Club's BC campaign to protect Vancouver Island's endangered old-growth rainforests. Sierra Club's goal through this campaign is to push the government to create a provincial old-growth protection act and halt logging in critical, intact old-growth hotspots, of which I understand there's not too many left. But welcome, Carly, and tell us. Woo-hoo! Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. Tell us why old-growth forests are essential to our health and happiness and how they contribute to a one-planet region.
Yes, thank you, Francis. I'm very happy to be here on behalf of Sierra Club BC. It's an absolute honor. It's been kind of a fun thing that I fell into beginning as a volunteer. It's really great to be here, so thank you. As for forests, for me, I love to go into the forests, whether it's being solo with a book and a little packed lunch, or if it's with friends going for a little adventure. I'm always left with this feeling of being rejuvenated, relaxed, peaceful, and all that sort of things when I come out of the forest. And I'm sure that most of us here can relate to that in one way or another. And I think that what that really speaks to is the fact that us as humans, we're intrinsically connected to nature. And that is something that is sometimes forgotten in our busy hustle bustle of the world, but whenever we return to nature, we are once again met with that feeling of being peaceful and being regenerated from the forests. We rely on our forests in ways that we may not always realize. We rely on them for food, for nutrition, for entertainment, for infrastructure, for places like this that we're gathered in tonight. So these are things that are sometimes easy to forget. But our actions as humans living in this place, on this one planet that we have, sometimes they don't show too much care. So as for the logging that's going on Vancouver Island, and with the apathy that is sometimes a lot easier to feel than the empathy towards these situations, it shows how integral our forests are. You know, hearing these rates of them being logged and us not doing anything about it, these are really scary things that we're met with, and as a community we need to bind together to make some changes.
I understand like there's 233, count them, 233
Yes.
scientists who have called for rainforest protection as the BC government is currently auctioning off more old growth cutting blocks. So what can the public do? It's sounding pretty bleak, but what can we do? Can we be hopeful? How can we make a difference?
Absolutely, yes. We should never lose hope. We have so much of the power to do change within us when we bind together. These temperate rainforests that we're looking to protect are amongst the last of the planet, not just in Canada. They're extremely efficient at sequestering carbon and helping our fight against climate change. So as for what we can do, I would encourage everybody here to pick up their pens, their pencils, their phones, get typing, send letters to your local MLAs, go on to the Minister of Forests, Minister of Environment. You can even talk to your Premier. Let them know that we'd like this to stop. The logging's happening at a rate of 3 square meters per second, 2 soccer fields an hour, and that's with the last 10% of the remaining old growth that we were originally blessed with.
Oh
So there's
my.
lots that we can do in that on your own, as well as a volunteer coordinator. I am a specialized person in finding a role for you. So whether it's you've seen me at community events, doing farmers markets, we've been at lots of music festivals and that sort of thing. There's something for everyone, and if that doesn't sound great for you, I would first encourage you to rethink it, because it didn't sound great for me at first, and then I found myself volunteering and where I am tonight. Otherwise, there's things like data entry, phone calls, all that sort of thing that you can do.
Thanks so much, Carly. Sorry.
Absolutely.
I know that the Sierra Club has a terrific selection of podcasts. Your website is just full of great information. So thank you, and keep doing the great work you're doing. And let's join Carly in a big round of applause.
Thank
you. Healthy forests are essential for healthy oceans. And so with us today, we have Chris Lake of Surfrider. Living on an island, we can appreciate, welcome, Chris Ann, sorry.
Thank you.
We can appreciate the value of our oceans, from a source of food and culture to recreation and tourism. The sea supports a wide variety of life. So you're joining us from Surfrider, a nonprofit community of everyday people who passionately protect and preserve the world's oceans, beaches, and the waves worldwide. So can you share with us how Surfrider is actively involved in protecting and preserving oceans in this region?
Yes, thank you. So the key is everyday people. A lot of people come out to some of the things that we do and ask genuinely, do you have to be a surfer? And we always say no. We are made up of well, actually, technically it started off as surfers that care about more things than just the sport, actually seeing the places, the beaches, the waterways where we recreate, seeing them clean and healthy. That is how we started. So locally around the region, we're probably best known for our beach cleanup program. Maybe all of you, maybe some of you even online, have seen or attended some of the beach cleanups we've done around the city, ranging from an average about 40, 50 people upwards to this Earth Day we had up almost 300 people come out in attendance. So it's definitely our largest program that we are doing locally, regionally, and then also we do remote beach cleanups where we'll take a smaller crew of people, of dedicated volunteers, and send them way out, far out, where they actually have to hike in. And that's the fun ones where they're like hauling back fridges and giant tires and stuff like that they find on beaches where maybe there's been no human presence yet.
Wow, I've heard those are a lot of fun, and you make really good friends. So if you're looking for a community to connect with, holy moly, this is a good one. So there's been a number of recent successes, and that's so exciting because back to that question of hope. There's a lot of hope. You know, when people get together, people get excited, they get empowered, and neat things happen. Tell us more.
Well, we just, as of July 1st, celebrated a large victory with the City of Victoria in the single-use bag ban. It was awesome. It was a very big deal. So, and we actually had the opportunity to have a celebration. That was an amazing thing. So that is a really exciting win that we are celebrating. But it's also with every win, you kind of, a couple of days later, you realize how much more work is to be done. And so through that win, we are hoping that obviously all the other municipalities kind of adopt the same bylaw, literally they could, and I know some of them are considering that, or a very similar bylaw as the City of Victoria now moves towards targeting other single-use plastics.
Wow, like your straws suck campaign. I love that. Straws suck, and they do. We don't need straws. We're not babies. Yes. Okay. Tell us about that campaign.
Straws suck, but we don't have to.
Yes.
So this is a new campaign right now. It's not necessarily policy related at this point, but we are actually hitting up the business community and highlighting the local businesses in Victoria that have already, will walk in and say, hey, do you want to sign our pledge, our Straws Suck campaign? And many of them say, actually, we don't hand out plastic straws anymore as it is, and many are moving towards the paper alternative. And so it's actually catching on. I think most people in Victoria are already ahead of this, but actually getting like a collaborative effort on straws across the region, it is a really big thing. Obviously keeping in mind that there are some folks who do genuinely need to use straws for ability reasons and such. And so, but just really being part of the conversation and saying, those of us who have a choice, we definitely can choose better.
Wonderful. Anything you want to add?
No, I'm just really excited for all the work that this organization is doing. It is amazing for us to think Surfrider, we not only have a role as consumers and really saying that we can refuse to buy single-use plastics. We can, but also what is our role as citizens of this planet also to get engaged and to go beyond that to figure out how can we actually stop plastic pollution at the source, and what does that look like, and how can we get involved with campaigns. So thank you.
Oh, thanks so much, Chris-Anne. Well, anything is possible. And Creatively United Earth Day events that we've hosted for more than 6 consecutive years have finished consecutively with less than 2 bags of garbage after recycling and composting. And we're pretty impressed by that considering it's been thousands of people there. Yes. Hey, welcome, Paula and Nairn McPhee. Your love of the oceans has resulted in the creation of a zero-waste emporium soon to open. My gosh, I think you guys are burning the midnight oil right now. Yeah. So let's welcome Paula and Nairn, and thank you for taking your time out of your busy lives, because they really are. They're opening like what, any minute now, any day now?
In about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, more or less.
A zero-waste emporium, and they've come to chat with us about their emporium. And how are you reducing waste and creating a one planet community by doing so?
Perfect. Yeah. So our journey started personally to reduce our own household waste after watching a really powerful documentary.
What was that?
It was called Trashed by Jeremy Irons.
Okay.
And it's a documentary that just goes into issues about garbage and incinerating and how it's not sustainable or feasible. And our own landfill only has, how many years left?
32 years left.
Years left. So it really kicked us in the butt to get our own waste under control. So yeah, Paul and I both come from marine backgrounds, and it all started with trying to find coffee, unpackaged, right? Because it's the life of your morning for a lot of people, right? So we accomplished that goal. We got coffee unpackaged, no problem at all. So we thought, what's next? So we kept trying to push the envelope and change mindsets, and we decided that rather than just do it for ourselves, we really wanted to make an impact. We needed to share it. So we put a lot of our resources online about where in Victoria you can go to shop unpackaged, and started selling some products that encourage people to live a zero waste or a minimal life waste style. And then this has kind of led us to where we are now in opening one of the island's first.
And your website that you've got all this on is what?
So it's the website is zerowastemporium.com.
Good, and we can find all these tips there.
Yeah, lots of tips on how to reduce your waste, where you can go in the city to shop package free if you want to bring your own containers and bags and whatnot, and lots of products as well that help reduce your amount of waste. So,
great. And Paula, tell us about the store. What's the address and when is it opening exactly?
So as Naren mentioned, for us it was very important to help people transition into a zero waste lifestyle and kind of encourage people to be conscious about what they were buying. And so we started with products that were just reusable, but we needed to make sure that those products at the end of their life cycle could also go back to the earth. So that now has evolved into a full grocery store. So we're opening a zero-waste package-free grocery store on Douglas Street. It's 1728 Douglas, right across from the Victoria Public Market. And we're hoping to open by the beginning of August. So we can provide people with the opportunity to buy their groceries completely package-free. And the beauty of it is that not only have we been able to encourage people to change their life and how they're buying products and the amount of waste that they're producing, but we've also been able to influence manufacturers and suppliers as to how they're manufacturing and packaging their products. So now we have a lot of local suppliers that are sending their products completely package-free, and they're changing the way that they're doing things so they can provide other customers with package-free groceries.
Wow, super impressive. Big hand for Paula and Nick. Thank you so much. Thank you for got to get back. They've got a store to get ready here. Jeez. If we want community-wide initiatives that put people and planet first and give the public a say in how government decisions are made, we have a historic opportunity this fall to vote yes for proportional representation. Woohoo! Yeah! I love it. Anything is better than our archaic first-past-the-post voting system. Our voting system actually dates back to the 17th century and is based on a rich lord's horse winning a horse race. The first horse to pass the post designated the wealthy lord the opportunity to rule the lands. So, fortunately, many countries in the world have now adopted a proportional representation system in Europe, New Zealand, around the world, and they will make, and they do make, every vote count. So, Ronnie Earhart from Fair Vote BC volunteers hundreds, and I do mean hundreds of hours. I see you at all the public markets and just giving it your all, helping people understand why we need to vote yes for proportional representation. Ronnie, can you quickly explain why proportional representation is better than our archaic first-past-the-post system, and why this is one of the most important issues we need to vote yes on?
I'd be delighted to. Proportional representation is a change in mindset. It's not just a voting system. The key to it is that we get what we vote for. So it's about shifting the balance of power to the elite few, the political elite, to shifting back the power to the people so that the people you vote for actually get in office a lot more of the time. Gives the opportunity for new parties to get a foothold. And this issue is very important. It changes gradually the mindset of government. So it becomes more cooperative because parties have to work together. We don't have these big false majority governments anymore. And why this is super important to the one planet issue that we're talking about tonight is no matter what your number one issue is, if it's climate change, if it's transportation networks, if it's sustainability, all of these issues, which are kind of stalled now in terms of a lot of government support, will have a big boost forward under proportional representation. And this isn't just my opinion. This is proved in all the countries that have proportional representation. They have better outcomes on climate change, and many, many issues that are very important to the One Planet.
When is the referendum and how will it be handled?
The referendum is going to be a mail-in ballot. It's coming out right after our municipal elections, so October 22nd, they'll be mailed out to your household. You need to be a registered BC voter, so make sure you're a registered BC voter and your address is up to date. You can go to the Elections BC website to update that. You still have lots of time. And then you need to return your ballot. You just fill it out and pop it in a mailbox by end of November, so you have lots of time.
And can you tell us about what'll be on that ballot?
Yeah, there's 2 questions on the ballot. They're worded quite simply, so don't get confused by these naysayers. They're really quite simple. First question is, which system should British Columbia use for provincial elections? The current first-past-the-post voting system or a proportional representation voting system? Note that these questions are binding, so if that question passes, our next provincial election in 2021 will be conducted under some form of proportional representation. And the threshold for passing is a strict majority, 50% plus 1. So the second question on the ballot says, if British Columbia adopts a proportional representation voting system, which of the following voting systems do you prefer? Rank in order of preference. You may choose to support 1, 2, or all 3 of these. And the systems are dual member proportional, mixed member proportional, and rural-urban PR. Note that all of these systems, despite what you hear out there, are in use in various places in the world, and all of these systems are a big improvement on first past the post. They all work well for BC. They all have a regional representation. So you don't need to get caught up on the systems, and you don't even need to vote on the second question. It's optional. You can just vote on the first question and have other people decide what the system will be. But the second question is also binding, giving the people of BC the chance to choose their voting system.
So it's really important that the number one thing, vote yes. Can they leave the second question, like you said, totally blank?
They can leave it blank, and what's really important, as Francis says, is vote for proportional representation on the first question, so that we can effect change here in British Columbia.
Oh, what change that would be. And there's a lot of money being spent by big business to confuse, polarize, and dissuade people from voting as it is. And I know many of you have already seen full-page ads with misleading information and using names similar to Fair Vote BC. So what can the public do to educate their friends, inform their families, their neighbors? What can they do? Are there talks? Do speakers come out to their homes? Is there something that can be done?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of sources of information. I encourage people to go to the website of Fair Vote Canada. That's fairvote.ca. And there's a whole section on the BC referendum there, including all the details on the systems. The TIE, if you go to their website, they have a good video out now on the systems if you want to get more in depth. There's a lot of misinformation out there as well. There will be an information package mailed out to every household in BC from Elections BC with all the details. That'll be coming out in September. And I will have literature out at the table for the people in the in-house audience here if you'd like some more information right here after the presentations.
So if we want great ideas and innovation to succeed, and especially grassroots movements, this is what we need to do, is vote yes for proportional representation. Thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate everything that you do.
Thank
you. Our next guest is Susan Smitten. She is an award-winning filmmaker and writer whose recent projects communicate the connection between environmental issues and First Nations stewardship of the land. And not to mention, you're the author of 7 books. Oh my gosh. If that isn't enough, she's the executive director of Raven, Respecting Aboriginal Values and Environmental Needs. Raven is a Victoria-based nonprofit charitable organization that provides financial resources to assist Aboriginal nations within Canada in lawfully forcing industrial development to be reconciled with their traditional ways of life and in a manner that addresses global warming and other ecological sustainable issues. Since 2009, Susan, you have created and managed the only nonprofit corporate charity in Canada with a mission to raise legal defense funds to assist First Nations to enforce their rights and title to protect their traditional territories and the environment. Let's welcome Susan again. She's just, everybody loves Susan.
Thank you very much.
Can you please share a bit about the work you do alongside Indigenous people addressing and shifting barriers?
Sure. Well, our theory of change is actually fairly simple. It's that Indigenous peoples in Canada's, we think, hold the balance of power in terms of protecting the environment. They have pretty much the strongest rights now with respect to the environment because those rights are enshrined in the Constitution. And if they can afford to enforce them, they can have a major impact on protecting their lands and the lands that we all want to share with them. That key sentence is if they can afford to enforce them. They're up against the deep pockets often of government and corporations. So we exist to help make it possible for them to be able to see court cases through to the end. And then also by shifting the burden of fundraising, essentially, for this, it's shared by all of us who benefit from the outcome.
That's a win-win if I've ever heard one. Can you share an example of a recent successful campaign?
Well, we've had quite a few, but
I know you're full of success.
But one of the best ones that we had and is Pull Together, which we created with Sierra Club BC for the first one, and is still going for Kinder Morgan. But Pull Together was it was really for us a real transition to a collaborative, they're all Indigenous led, but collaborative and grassroots fed campaign. So it also transformed traditional funding models. So we basically went to the 7 nations who were litigating against Enbridge, and we said, would you be willing to work together? Because we can't just have little individual campaigns. That's just way too hard. And so we used their narratives, their images, and their financial needs to create the campaign nexus. Then we created a standalone website, pull-together.ca, rather than using Raven's website, because by having an open source website, other NGOs, allies felt totally comfortable sharing it. It didn't inhibit other people from spreading the word. And then this was the biggest shift. We used a brand new platform at the time for peer-to-peer fundraising. So we combined the compelling stories of the nations with the energy of everyone. It started, Caitlin likes to tell the story how it started with spaghetti dinner and terrace and just went outward from there, so that fundraising and for this campaign could be both fun but also effective. And our tagline was, who knew it could be so much fun stopping a pipeline? Lots of people might remember that. So the other, and then this is the game changer though. The key component that funders tell us is that by creating this open source and combined effort, donors didn't have to choose. So we had a major donor who came in with $250,000 in matching funds, which of course every donor likes to hear that. And so it meant that we removed the politics. We've all focused on the united goal of supporting Indigenous-led litigation, ultimately to stop an unwanted project.
Oh, congratulations.
And it worked.
Oh yeah, did it ever? And how was this transformative for the nations?
Well, the feedback we got from the nations was that they felt that their voices were heard. They felt that they were part of a movement. They weren't in this alone anymore. The Heiltsuk Nation told us, you know, it's really lonely up here in Bella Bella when you feel like you're all by yourself. So they were a community of nations, but they were also working with their surrounding communities. They didn't have to divert money from other essential issues like housing, education, and they felt fully represented in court. So their lawyers didn't have to scrimp, they could actually fully represent them to the successful conclusion.
Oh, that's fantastic. And talking about the transformative power of directed networks and collaborations, how has being involved with Creatively United benefited
We
Raven?
love these guys. We were part of the planning for the very, very first Creatively United event. But for us, it's been, I mean, Francis's energy has always been inspiring. Honestly, it's true. And the idea of leveraging networks for the greater good, which is really what Pull Together was a key thing. And then we got some of our best volunteers from some of your events who are still some of our key volunteers, and also just generally having a better presence. We're a national charity, but we now have a real base here in Victoria, which is great.
Oh, thank you, Susan, so much. You're such an inspiration, and all the best to you and your team at Raven.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I've had the great pleasure to hear Rochelle Lamb recite her beautiful poetry and share her experience and wisdom as a nonviolent communication facilitator and educator. Many times since we met many moons ago, I won't even say how long. Rochelle has quite the following. If you check out her Facebook page, Poetess, you will find that she unites a lot of people creatively through her poetry. Rochelle, would you be so kind to share with us your poem that encapsulates much of what we've spoken about tonight? Rochelle, is it called Imagine?
It's called Imagine.
Rochelle Lamb.
Yeah, I was hoping to be able to stand.
Please do.
I don't think I can though, because unless, how's this for you, everybody?
I don't think it works, does it?
Oh, here we go, okay. I'll just begin by saying that in 2010, I was able to see the film, and some of you might have already seen it. It's a documentary called Babies that tracks the first 2 years of 4 babies' lives. One is from Namibia, one is from Mongolia, one is from San Francisco, and another one from Tokyo. And it's a very impressive piece because it really illustrates just the resiliency of babies and the adaptability of babies, and how vitally important it is that they find themselves amongst real adults who really give a shit about the world. Imagine this. You are born inside a mud and grass hut. Breath fills your lungs. Life. You hear soft voices, hands reach out to hold you close. Skin, breast, milk, mother. You are given a name, binding you to your purpose and lineage. You are firmly rooted. Home. The gauzy blur before your newborn eyes slowly reveals the many who have awaited you. Village. You are given stories to help you see and obey the natural order, to help you choose right living. Wisdom. The natural order surrounds you. You are embedded. This is how it is. Belonging. Forest, mountain, river, and creature, everything speaks the language of life, creation. You are taught how you are inseparable from the web of life, how all things are joined. Kinship. You learn to play heed, to listen to the land, to the winds and seasons, to the needs of all life. Respect. Your people help you to cultivate the capacity for humility, reverence, courtesy, and obligation. Etiquette. Elders instruct you, readying you so that one day you may become an adult, elder, ancestor, continuum. You learn to speak relationally. You learn to bring attentiveness to how language lives. Vigilance. You tend to what matters so that life can be nurtured by how you live your days. Stewardship. And if your story is more lostness and tragedy than it is sanity and coherence. You work to remember redemption. Trauma does not consign you to choose between victim and oppressor. You are capable of more, human. Imagine this. From your grief and labors, you can craft a different life for those to inherit this world. Benediction. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle Lamb. Wow. If you ever get a chance to take one of her nonviolent communication courses, I suggest you do. Phil Rosner is a musician, a meditator, and a meditation teacher and a mindfulness teacher. Writer and media consultant, he has a huge heart for community and it's filled with compassion. I know him personally. He has been very active over the last 30 years as a volunteer for local and international organizations and is on the steering committee of the Souk Regional Multi-Belief Initiative, whose present mandate is to see Souk BC become a center of compassion through Souk Council's official recognition and implementation of an international Charter of Rights. Let's welcome Phil Rosner. So Phil, I understand there are about 400, I was surprised, communities around the globe that have already adopted this international charter for compassion. Please tell us where this idea came from and how it supports the notion of living in a one planet community.
Yeah, well, you know, starting off tonight, the band started off with Revolution, right?
Yeah.
And of course, John Lennon's message was, we want to change the world, you know. And of course, we all do. And so there was a lady out there, she's a renowned author, a religious historian.
Mm-hmm.
Her name's Karen Armstrong. And she knew that, you know, people were getting frustrated. They didn't know what to do. They wanted to change things, see some positive change. And so through her work, she went and she did a TED Talk, and she won the TED Award for her talk in 2008. And it was all about what she had learned through all the research that she had done. And the core of it was to for everybody to use the golden rule. Treat others as you would like to be treated. So she put out this challenge during the TED Talk and said, we would like feedback from everybody based on this golden rule, and we would like to set up what we want to call a charter of compassion. So they got feedback from all over the world, and I think it was in 2009, a year later, the Council for Consciousness, which was, I think, part of her group, they basically amassed all this information and they came up with this Charter of Compassion. And as I say, the core of the charter is, you know, the golden rule.
Well, Souk has a really big heart-based community as it is. So how is this going to change things?
Well, it's something that is kind of comes across the board, you know. It happens in business, it happens in everyday life, it happens with our community organizations. You know, if you bring about this golden rule, it can cause real changes, because in a lot of situations, you know, everybody is so caught up in the me, right? In the egocentric point of view, that they kind of forget what's happening around them. They forget the needs of the other person. And so to bring about this charter, it can cause, you know, it can really help engender a great, effective, peaceful community.
And was it hard to get it adopted?
It's not really totally adopted yet. There was kind of a pathway that we went through. And so what we did is last year in March of 2017, we got together with a group of people. We had Shirley Alphonse from the Sauk Nation, and a bunch of people from all different segments of the community. And we got together, and it was kind of a working situation where we broke into groups, and we talked about different aspects with regards to what became the Sauk Regional Multi-Belief Initiative. Okay, and from that, there's about an 8-core group that meets on a monthly basis, and we've been kind of moving this along, and part of this, of course, is the Charter for Compassion. And most recently, one of our members, Mark Ziegler, he made a presentation to the Sauk Council, and they just loved it, and it was beautiful. So what we're doing now is we're setting up another kind of open program in the fall of this year to meet again with all the segments of society so that we can come up with a community action plan, or no, actually a compassionate action plan, with the important word being action.
Wow. And talking about action and community action, you're embody it, and we'll be hearing from another group doing just that. So thank you so much, Phil.
Thank you.
Well, the Greater Victoria Acting Together Society, or known as GVAT, their approach is very compassionate as well. It's really quite amazing how all these groups are coming together in a compassionate way. Their approach involves in-depth listening and discussion over a long period of time to arrive at a clear and shared understanding of what the common concerns are and what common actions need to be taken. Using proven models of engagement being implemented in countries worldwide, communities have regained control over their governments, yes, over government decisions for the greater good of all. We're very fortunate tonight to be joined by 2 leading members of GVAT, the coordinator Flossie Baker and Courtney Baldwin. Welcome. Flossie. This is Flossie, that's Courtney. Flossie, tell us how the Greater Victoria Acting Together came about and what people need to know.
Well, firstly, GVAT is a collaboration of organizations who care about making concrete changes to the most pressing issues that face our city, and who crucially believe that the most effective way for them to do that is to do it together. So we represent 19 organizations from different sectors of the civil society in this city. We're made up of faith groups, of unions, environmental groups, educational groups, and frontline service organizations.
Wow, that's great. And Courtney, I have heard you speak at a GVAT meeting, and I left really enthused and really energized. So tell us about your passion and why you got involved with GVAT.
Sure. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't have time to get involved with GVAT. I'm a graduate student at UVic. I have 2 other paying jobs. So when I had to go to a workshop for GVAT for one of the councils that I was on. And I spent the day in this room with organizations that I would never have talked to, with people I would never have talked to. And we engaged in this crazy, authentic, vulnerable way. And it stripped away the stuff that we had, that we were dividing us, and we melted into this place of commonality. And I was really, really engaged by it, and I loved it. And so I said, well, this is something different. And I've been doing social justice-oriented things for many years. But this was something that was fundamentally different that I hadn't seen before. And so that's kind of where I came into it.
Wow. And what would you like to add to that, Flossie? Anything? About how can people get involved? How many groups are involved? What's happening locally?
Okay. We have currently 19 member organizations, and we have a couple of more in the works who are currently exploring membership. The best way to get involved is to go to our website and send us an email saying that you're up for going for a coffee. The second best thing to do is to keep an eye on our events page on our website as well. We're hosting a training on September 21st, 22nd, which will take us through the basics of this model of organizing. It will explore the traditions that each of our organizations come from. And a lot of time is focused on relationship building, and you kind of get the juicy experiences that Courtney just described.
And just to add on to that, to the people who are like me, who don't have time for this stuff and are too busy, and to be honest, are somewhat they want their time to count. You got to make it count. And so I used to go to a lot of individual protests and organizations, and although I felt like it mattered, and it does matter, I needed something that had a little bit more oomph to it. And we've heard all tonight about how people were talking about how we work better when we're together, and about how siloing and individual campaigns can sometimes not be able to have enough bargaining power to really get our voices heard. GVAT is an organization that works with other organizations to rise people up so their own voices can be heard and respected, and the passions they have can be applied in real, tangible ways. So if you're even slightly interested about it, do us a favor, give us a call. We're really engaging and lovely, and we'd love to chat with you.
What's your website? Give your website.
www.gvat.ca.
That's G-V-A-T.
G-V-A-T.
Greater Victoria Acting Together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, solutions do exist to the problems that we face. We're hearing it tonight, as you said. So we all share one bioregion, one planet, and we need to work regionally, including bioregionally. Fortunately, as you've heard, a number of organizations exist and are working to address the integrated social and ecological challenges we face and create a healthier, more just, and sustainable future for us and our descendants. In addition to the ones you heard tonight, we couldn't fit everyone in, but we would have loved to. A few others include Conversations for a One Planet, Common Vision, Common Action, Cities for Everyone, the Victoria Foundation, and finally, there's Creatively United for the Planet, which brings all this community goodness together in one easy-to-access social sharing network at creativelyunited.org, where you can learn about these many organizations and share in articles, resources, videos, and events. We have a short video we produced just that captures the essence of Creatively United and how it contributes to healthy, happy communities. Let's just have a quick look.
It takes a village to ensure that where we live, eat, work, and play remains beautiful, resilient, healthy, and happy. Since 2012, more than 10,000 people have attended Creatively United for the Planet's annual Earth Week festival and events. Creatively United has showcased more than 100 nonprofits and community organizations, 250 musicians, artists, and DJs, and 80 small businesses and local startups, plus provided hundreds of networking and volunteer opportunities.
What I like most about Creatively United is A, it's creative, and B, it's united, right? And so the creative aspect of it is that we've had so long of saying stop this and we don't do that and shouldn't do this. To get creative about what we can do to create a positive future around the vision of the world we want to see is really important. And then to be united around that is so important. It's no good just being off in a little rabbit hole. I'm saving a creek over here and I'm dealing with homelessness over there and I'm going to do a bike thing over here. We have to come together and realize that all these separate initiatives are part of a greater, larger unfolding as we make the transition to a new world that is in harmony with nature, that's using 100% renewable energy, that brings out the heart and the love in us all as we link together as communities. So events like this are hugely important for that kind of thing.
Over the course of several months, our students took part in learning about this precious habitat. They learned how to preserve such an important place and the whys and the hows of reducing the carbon footprint in our school and in our community.
This learning was unique and enjoyable, a curriculum not usually found in classrooms.
As we went through the journey of learning about the High Rock Park, we all prepared for the grand finale, which was the participation in the Creatively United for the Planet's Earth Day celebration.
And we have worked collaboratively with Creatively United for the Planet. Students have looked through the cairn through different lenses, photographers, videographer, artists, biologists, and so on. And this is a culmination of their work from September, learning about the Garry Oak ecosystem and the value it has in our community.
Well, there's a party with a purpose going on up your watershed.
We find ourselves with a fantastic opportunity. Bring the food back home. Let's have secondary manufacturing for young people to learn, to teach them what to do with our trees. Let's do ecoforestry. Let's create a space, a world, an environment, a society that we can actually be so proud of what we've created that the rest of the world would look to Vancouver Island and say, gosh, look what they did, those people there. They reached out to each other in their communities. They brought their food back home.
Creatively United is a great opportunity for all of these different groups to come together and cross-pollinate ideas, which is what's going on behind me with this World Cafe on post-carbon transition. It's a chance for our supporters to learn more, and people who maybe don't know as much about the work that all these great groups are doing can engage with it in a little more meaningful way.
When we can blend consciousness, initiative, and creativity, I think we really have hit the road running.
And hopefully hundreds or thousands of people will walk through here, and there'll be 100 exhibitors here talking about local solutions. And if people walk away with ammunition and ideas and contacts, then that's power.
I think this song means that adults need to help change the way the earth works, because as a kid, I will be living in any kind of environment you adults leave. We are the future, and we're counting on you.
Together as we are tonight with One Planet Region, Stream of Consciousness, and all the amazing speakers who gave up their time and their energy for this event, we can create the world we most want to live in. So please, please, please lend your support to these organizations, to whoever here resonates the most with what matters to you. And I'd really love to invite our volunteers up on the stage, because it's gonna be all right. It really is.
Gonna be.
Thank you for joining
all right.
us.
You know it's gonna be. All right. 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 You know it's gonna be. All right.